Okay, another trial, Tennessee versus Janet Hinds. She's accused of driving under the influence, getting into an accident, and taking the life of an officer. Today on the stand, Lisa Burgee, a special agent, forensic biologist, took the stand. Let's take a look at some of her testimony.
What is DNA?
So DNA is a component that is in the cells of your body, and it basically provides the instructions for those cells. It's what makes each individual unique, and also tells the body how to operate. So it's unique to each individual, except for identical twins. That would be different, but you get half of your DNA from your mom and half of your DNA from your dad.
Okay. Can you test items for DNA?
Yes, sir.
And how do you do that?
There are a few different ways to do that. The first way would be looking for different bodily fluids, so blood, semen, and saliva would be what I would be looking for. And then there are other ways, such as swabbing an item in order to pick up skin cells that might be present on the item.
Okay. Once you discover or determine that DNA is on an object, can you test it for against known standards that you have received?
Yes.
And how do you do that?
So once I have a sample that I'm ready to take through the DNA process, I'll take that through a chemical process and get the DNA profile from the evidence. And then I also run what are known standards, so standards taken from individuals that you know who they came from, and take that through the DNA process. And then I will take those two profiles and compare them to each other.
All right. A known standard could be a buccal swab from an individual or a blood spot from an individual. Is that correct?
That's true, yes.
Okay. All right. You received several pieces of evidence in this particular case, did you not?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Some of those were pieces of evidence and some of those were known standards. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did you test those items for DNA?
I did, yes.
And did you compare the items that you tested for DNA with the known standards that you had received?
Yes, sir.
Did you memorialize your findings in a report?
I did, yes.
May I approach, Your Honor? Take a look at that, sure. See if you recognize it.
That appears to be a copy of my report.
All right. Ask this to be marked and entered as the next number.
Without objection, let that be marked Exhibit 101.
This is Exhibit 101. This is your official forensic biology report?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Received items from the Chattanooga Police Department?
Yes.
All right. And you issued this report on February 25th, 2020?
Yes.
All right. The subject of the case was a Janet Hinds?
Yes, sir.
And the victim was a Nicholas Gallagher. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. I believe it says exhibits here, and then there is a list of items. Is that correct?
Yes, and those exhibit numbers are the exhibit numbers given to by the TBI, so those are TBI lab exhibit numbers.
But that is a list of the evidence you received?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And under results, those are your conclusions that you came to after you tested items and compared them to the known standards. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I think it's several pages. It's 3 pages.
Yes, sir. It is 3 pages.
And that is your copy of your signature down there at the bottom.
It is, yes.
What I'm going to do is just run through the list, okay?
Okay.
You tested what TBI Exhibit 2A, driver's side windshield wiper from Honda CR-V. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what were your results?
So for the driver's side windshield, I swabbed the exterior facing portion, and the DNA profile obtained was consistent with a mixture of at least 2 individuals. So a mixture just means that there are more than one, there's DNA from more than one person on that sample. The major contributor profile was consistent with my Exhibit 17A, which was the standard from Nicholas Gallagher. So the major contributor profile, that just means the person that's contributed the most DNA to that sample. Due to the limited minor profile obtained, interpretation of that minor profile was inconclusive.
Okay. And down here at the bottom of this list, there's a 16A and 17A buccal swab from Janet Hinds and blood standard for Nicholas Gallinger. Those are the known standards that you received that you tested the items of evidence against. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you determined that the driver's side windshield wiper had DNA that was consistent with Mr. Gallinger. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. The passenger side 3A, TBI 3A, passenger side windshield wiper from Honda CRV. What did you find?
So I also swabbed the exterior facing portion of that as well. And that was a limited DNA profile that was obtained, and because it was so limited, my interpretation was inconclusive, so I was not able to say whose DNA that was for that item.
So what does that mean?
It just means that the amount of DNA on that item was so limited that I couldn't say whether someone was present or not present, so I determined that it was inconclusive.
All right. TBI 4A swabs of exterior of windshield D side from Honda CRV.
Right, so these were swabs that were submitted to the lab, and for that one, the DNA profile obtained matched Nicholas Gallinger, and then I also gave a statistic for that.
All right. So the swabs of exterior windshield match Officer Gallinger, is that correct?
Yes.